Hello, Jedi Knights and Sith Lords. Tonight, Eric and I are joining forces to bring you our breakdown slash review of episodes 4, 5, and 6 of Andor Season 2. Uh, Somewhat eventful episodes. Hello, Eric. How are you doing?
Good, good. You?
Doing great, doing great.
Nice. So we
Keeping
got
myself busy. Are you ready for May the 4th?
yes, yes. I don't really shop all that much, but there are a
Okay.
few Lego sets I'm excited about.
Uh-huh.
Probably gonna get that Star Wars logo that we're seeing,
Yeah,
and
that's
that's my
awesome.
intention. But who knows? I'm supposed to go to the Lego store this weekend, and I hope
Ooh.
it's not gonna cost me too much money. Um,
Mm-hmm.
We've also got like me and my kids. I've mentioned a few times we're fans of Fortnite. So the next season that's starting tomorrow is of 5 weeks. It's a shortened season of 5 weeks of all Star Wars. So
Wow.
a whole bunch of new
Okay.
skins. Apparently you'll be able to. I heard you can customize and earn lightsabers and all this kind of stuff and new
Whew.
weapons, new skins. Captain Phasma is in there. You'll be able to get. General Grievous, all these things, so you'll be able to play out all these really
Whoa.
cool characters, Poe Dameron and all that. So,
Sounds
um,
epic.
yeah, yeah, and so like I'm doing that. I'm playing even the Monopoly Go started today with their little
Hmm.
version of Star Wars, and so it's
Yeah, they
popping
announced
up
that
everywhere.
at Celebration 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so I'm. It's going to be Star Wars mode for a few days and probably a few weeks, and probably going to drain my wallet with a couple things. So.
Yeah, speaking about draining the wallet, I mean,
Yeah,
I
your
think I
addiction is a
think
little bit
this
harsher than mine. So
yeah, I think this weekend is gonna cost me more than Christmas usually does. I
as long
mean,
as it doesn't cost more than Disney, I think you should be
oh no, 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 that should be okay. But there's the Armorer helmet coming out from
Yeah.
Hasbro. Our friend Steve Godway from Kaya Boutique told me that he was shipping that helmet tomorrow.
Okay.
Also, there's the 501st helmet coming out this weekend at EB Game Stores.
Is that the exclusive one that comes with a coin or
What a call.
something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And your new addiction.
Yeah, my new addiction. Yeah, and then at Disney parks we have the Baden Skull and Shinati box set
Okay.
coming out on Sunday. So I have already dispatched one of my button spies who's attending Star Wars Night on Revenge of the Fifth
Nice.
on Monday, who will acquire this bounty for me. And 2 days later, another friend of mine who is making a trip to Disneyland, California, will build the brand new Savvy's Workshop lightsaber for me. So
I
if you
saw it. It's
can,
got a really nice look to it compared
yeah,
to. There's a few models I've seen are a little bit more organic looking kind of thing, and I'm
hmm,
not crazy about those. But this one, it looks a little more dark. I don't know how to
the emitter
describe
I've
it.
picked is like the tip of Han Solo's gun.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
It looks pretty epic, so I'm really anxious to have it in my collection. And also, they are releasing a brand new MSC droid, and I can't wait to have it. It's going to be remotely controlled,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, it's going to be around 150.
Okay.
It's from the Galactic Archive collection at Disney Parks,
Nice.
so it's gonna fit pretty well with my Imperial officer costume in the 501st. And speaking of 501st, it is
Yeah. As of
501st
today, yeah.
day.
We're
Yeah, as
we're
we are
recording it.
recording this video, so May the 1st, it's 501st day. So take the time to share a little picture of me, you, and
Yeah.
Nico, and it was my first official troop that day. So
It was good. It was a good day. It's one of the last ones. I haven't really done any much trooping since then, but we'll get back into it. But let's move on to
yeah.
what people are tuning into, and that's our review of the next three episodes of the story arc that involved our characters.
Mm-hmm.
So Do we go in the same order as last time? Let's try
I think
to.
we should, yeah.
Yeah,
Let's start with Bix and Cassian, I think.
yeah. So I mean,
Or
what?
do we save them for last?
No,
Or
we can. You know what? I like the end. I like how that third episode ended. So let's keep it
yeah,
for
the
that.
arc. Yeah, okay.
So let's keep it with what's been going on, and a lot of it, that we saw is happening on Ghorman.
Hmm.
So what we see is that Cyril's moved on, continues moving up the ranks, probably due to the help of Deidre.
Deidre. Hmm.
And he's kind of integrated himself more into what he's wanted to do, which is be part of the ISB, and he's being
Yeah,
used
so
as a spy, right?
he's still working for the Bureau of Standards, but
Yeah, but
he has that's
the front,
a
right?
cover for
Yeah,
the for the ISB. So, and did you notice that his office, that there are some paths on each side, and he has his office with the closing doors, but it reminds me of the Imperial Star Destroyer. You have the bridge in the middle, and like con officers working in the holes on each side.
yeah. No, I didn't notice. I didn't make that connection. That's interesting. I'm gonna go back and
Hmm.
watch that. So yeah, I mean, so he's there, and also he's on Gorman, integrating himself in what is called the Gorman Front, which is like they're
Yeah.
kind of like resistance group of some sort.
Hmm.
And we had a discussion about like even discussing that their accent and the language that they speak sounds like a Swiss
A mix of
German,
mm,
yeah, like a
a bit
French
of
kind of.
French.
Yeah, so it's funny. I used to deal with a lot of people from Switzerland when I was doing another job, and when we were talking through it before, it reminded me that this kind of what it sounds like. Even their accent, what they're talking in English, sounds like that, like it's some kind of Swiss German. But I mean,
Yeah, because when I try to imitate a French person trying to speak English,
it
I
sounds
kind of
like that.
sound like they do. Yeah.
But I'm trying to remember the kind of the older man. I've seen him in a few things, obviously in the past. I think
Hmm.
if I remember well, he was in Inglorious Bastards.
Oh, quite possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he was one of the. If I remember exactly, he was the one that the bear Jew came out. He was hiding in the tunnels,
Uh huh.
and then the guy didn't want to talk, and then like the bear Jew came out. I think his name is Eli Roth. He's a director
Yeah.
as well. Comes out and bangs him over the head, and then after that, when he looks at the next guy, the guy gives up the position of the Germans right away. Well, the one that he hits and kills is I think was that older gentleman.
Okay.
I could be wrong. Anyway,
Wow.
we digress. But so I mean that whole story arc with the Gormans was interesting. That's where we see the connection. Where where we kind of have to talk about what's been going on with Cassian now, where that connects, because Cassian does go at one point and scout this group for
Yeah.
Luthen,
For
right?
Luton. Yeah.
Yeah, and ultimately finds out that these guys are, in his opinion, not ready for this kind of uprising or whatnot, right?
They like the trading. They like the resources.
Yeah,
They like the weapon. So
yeah. So I mean, he went there, scouted. He had integrated himself. Well, I mean, he had checked into a hotel where he kind of like befriends the bellboy or whatnot,
mhm.
kind of like, and you want to give a little bit more information on the whole
Yeah,
Gorman
yeah,
massacre
because
at that point.
that Melboy is talking about the Gorman massacre. So if you're familiar with the lore, uh, I thought that we were going to see that Gorman massacre next week.
Yeah,
Turns out that there was two Gorman massacre. The one that the bellboy tells Cassian about, which was when Grand Moff Tarkin decided to land his cruiser on the actual plaza, crushing 500 unarmed innocent victims in the process. So, if you were still having good vibes about Grand Moff Tarkin, nope, not a good guy for sure. Pretty ruthless, and no remorses, and people are still hurting from that, even though it all happened 16 years prior to the episode we're watching. So 19 years BBY, which corresponds to the early days of the Empire. So
And then I mean, that whole story ended up like, it did take a lot of focus, but it's not something we can really like detail scene by scene, like, because there is that eventual scene where they do have their kind of like mission, but again, I feel like we kind of have to talk about Cassian at this point, and let's catch up to this. So Cassian, let's go back to him without
mhm.
trying to bounce forward, but like, if we go back to where he started in this, now we find out that him and Bix are living on Coruscant, which is kind of
Like in the
a,
safe house.
yeah, a safe house, but kind of a weird place to be trying to hide,
Hmm.
considering how hot he is, right? Like,
Well, hiding in plain sight, they say.
yeah. So it's funny because like when I think about that, I think of like, and this is fresh because I mean I went to see episode 3 last week in theaters, and
Hmm.
the solution for hiding Luke was with his family on
Yeah.
Tatooine. So I mean, it is what it is, but it kind of reminds me of that, like, hide in plain sight. Like who's gonna think he's gonna go and hide there, right?
Hmm.
And then while we see his living situation with Bix, she's still living through these I guess flashbacks, nightmares, and having a
Yeah.
hard time dealing with all that
Good
stuff.
old Dr. Gorst still haunting her dreams.
Yeah, and
And
so
she's having a tough time because a year has passed since last week.
yeah,
So they've been into missions together, Bix and Cassian. And she's having nightmares about that particular missions because Cassian had to kill an Imperial officer, and he kind of did it only because he saw Bix's face.
yeah.
So she's like, are we becoming like the enemies we sworn to fight? Or are we doing it because we have to really to do it, So
Yeah.
and Cassian is more convinced than her, he's I'm doing this to protect you, and she's like, I'm not a damsel in distress. I don't need your protection,
Well,
Cass.
there's obviously like a lot of tense conversations I find throughout these 3 episodes.
Hmm.
Tense moments of tense conversation. It's just hard to capture in the description. But I mean, obviously everyone's seen it at this point. But like, all that leads to, like, we noticed. I think it was at the end of episode 1 that Bix is obviously self medicating herself
Hmm.
as a result of all this trauma that she went through. You can see that's really on her mind, and
And Cass is always looking behind his shoulder. They go to buy groceries for dinner, and he's like checking if he has brought his gun with him in case
yeah.
something comes up, and you just want to go. It's all business. We want to
Well,
purchase the stuff and leave.
that's why
You
it's kind
don't
of
want to.
weird for them to go back there, right? And to live in such
Yeah,
paranoia. So,
it's all about finding the balance, I guess.
yeah.
But
I mean, I
easier
guess
said
maybe I'd
than
have
done.
to rewatch to see if there's a reason why they chose that. I mean, obviously it's closer communication with Luthen and all that stuff, but
Yeah, and they have a view. The windows they have. There's like a beacon at the top of a building, and when it flashes,
yeah,
it means that Newton needs them or they need to make contact.
yeah. So,
So I.
but so we later see Cassian. I mean, there was that conversation he has with Luthen when he came back after scouting the Gorman front, and
Mhm.
and he basically tells him he's not ready. But I think it was like either before that or after we find out that Luthen actually, well, he went and had a conversation with Bix, and it looked like he was feeling. I mean, I think you mentioned before we started this, that he has genuine concern for her, but an even more concern for how it's affecting Cassian.
Cassian, yeah,
Yeah. So, and then
because he knows that as long as Bix is not feeling well, is going to be a liability for Cass, and his his focus won't be on the mission. He'll always have Bix in the back of his mind,
yeah,
and it could end up costing some lives in the end. So
yeah.
he wants Bix, in tip top shape for the greater good.
He didn't look too happy when he found out, obviously, about that. That he went kind of like, well, that he spoke to her, and he's like, he had to know that, you know, we were gonna have this conversation. He tells Bix, right? Like, he's like, how the hell? And then when he confronts him, that's when Luthen had that kind of like another, I guess, his when he has to kind of block out any kind of emotion and just try to put all that aside and tell him, listen, like, you know, is this going to affect you? Is she going to be a problem? Like, that's what he needs to find out. And Cassian didn't take too well to that, and he was like, you know,
I'm not a simple chess piece, you know.
Well, yeah, and he says, I came to you, I came to join you and loyal to you, like, you know, there's
give
not
you my blood.
yeah, exactly. And he says, this is not, you know, getting rid of. You're gonna fix this kind of thing. Like, you're gonna find a solution, basically. So, you know, and what we find out through all that stuff was pretty crazy that Luthen, like you said, playing chess, he's already a few moves ahead. He's got Vel on the way to take over for the mission with the Ghorman front in the meantime.
So maybe he kind of knew that Cassian would want to take on that project, and he says, "Well, we're gonna go all the way in." And what he says to Cassian, when they die, they're gonna become bright lights or something like that. You know, they're gonna go out with a bang, and we'll.
That's his typical Luthen preaching, though, at times, right? So it's
he wants to draw attention to and push the Empire to move and look bad, you know. So and he doesn't care who pays the price in the process, you know.
So let's circle back to this, because in terms of what's happening with Dedra on her end, we have her. We see it right from the beginning. She's having a conversation with. During the mission briefing, I think that they were having at the ISB, that she's still obsessed with Andor and needs to find him.
And Axis,
and Axis, and where she was talking to her previous colleague, or what, not previous, but like her
former aide, Hurt,
and that
so he's been promoted from aide to supervisor. So now he's at the same level as Dedra. And he's in charge of Axis, so
and she finds out that, you know, he's in charge of it, and he wasn't even consulting her on any of the, I guess, information that she had. But so you can see that kind of tension building up between those two. And then there's also the storyline, which is,
and part of the guys is like, you know, he's not happy with the progress of the operation. You know, they say you have prisoners for 10 days and. You know, we're not even a step further than we were 10 days ago. And thankfully for Hurt, Young steps in and he says, well, we're arresting too many peoples. And that's direct connection with the P.O.R.D. they installed after the Aldani heist. So now they can prolong the convictions of any criminals, which is why Andor was like 6 years on Narkina 5.
And that was also part of, like, you know, trying to escalate the production level of the Death Star in a way as well. It was all like intertwined. Like,
so they need to make a lot of arrests, but part of the guys cannot tell his men that, you know, they have to collect like laborers for the.
But it's funny because project, you know? the whole thing. Actually, I can't even. I was gonna say something, but I can't say it. But I was gonna say, like, you know, like it's funny how the ISB, or even the Empire in general, finds a way to. They're like, well, how are we gonna make people either our prisoners, or how are we gonna get this labor? And it's by kind of like provoking.
Making them criminals and arresting them
by provoking them, and then after that, like, you know, so I mean, and then the whole one thing that we haven't spoken about, which is all going to wrap up together is this story we can probably finish all the way through is what's been going on with Wilman, the younger that left with Bix and Cassian. So he's been sent to
the car,
to train
one of Saw's men named Pluty. So there's like 8 variations of Rhydonium, and Saw wants to steal Rhydonium because it's a very expensive fuel for starships. So if they get access to unlimited fuel, well, they're going to be able to fuel their X-wings and other fighters. So it's pretty crucial to get that kind of fuel, but it's very volatile. So it's like you drop a wrench next to the place where you're taking the Rhydonium, it could all explode. So it's pretty dangerous, and each variations has its own special combination. Like when you're opening a safe,
Yeah.
to be able to access them.
That's what it looks like.
And,
it looks like they're literally trying to crack a safe.
Yeah.
And that's what he's training one of Saul's men's, apparently, to do that.
He goes, and speaking of the car, the base is the same base the Resistance is using 30 years later when General Organa Leia, when they were based with Poe Dameron and all the guys at the end of the Force Awakens.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, it's that very same base that they reused. So, because at the end of the arc, they're abandoning that base to go on their mission, and they don't ever come back. And the base was never discovered by the Empire, so it didn't figure in the database for the First Order. So
yeah, I made that connection at all. So, and then we have Saul, which is just like on another planet mentally at times. It just shows us his craziness and
extremists.
Yeah, exactly. And you said right before they left the planet, he ends up shooting the.
He shoots Pluty because they found out that he was a traitor.
Yeah.
He had a little device and was giving information to the Empire. So
that's where, I mean, eventually we see that kind of thing to close off the story in those 3 episodes. And he does crack this, the safe to steal the fuel and whatnot, and everyone else is kept to their distance, and Woman's there with a mask on and everything, and then this whole speech with Saul, which is another one of those intense moments where it ends up where a woman takes off the mask and breathes in this atmosphere of whatnot, right? That's and gases that are probably around him, and like you said, you gave a bit of insight on what Saul is and how resistant he is to this whole war.
Yeah, I think he's addicted to that gas. Throughout the years, he even said in his story that he worked on a mining gas on his own planet of Andor, which is a planet we saw a lot in the Clone Wars, where he was living with his sister Stilla. And Stilla was Saw's moral compass, and she dies at the end of the arc in the Clone Wars, and after that he never recovers. He radicalizes more and more as time goes on, and this is where we find him, and we even see him in Rebels having a huge discussion fight with Mon Mothma about the methods she is using. It's not drastic enough to his taste. So
it's fine because we do see him. It's a character that's shown up in many different. He's shown up in the video game, the Fallen Order. Was it Fallen Order or the first one? He's shown up in the first one, the Jedi Fallen Order, I think it was. Shown up in multiple series and stuff like that. We see him in the movie. He's a character that seems to be reoccurring and an interesting one to see all the different his evolution until we see him in his demise in Rogue One, where he's just half man, almost not half man, half machine, but he's run the gauntlet in terms of damage he's taken. Right?
He has a breathing mask. Perhaps because his lungs were burnt. Inhaling too much Rhydonium.
Yeah. So
I guess.
So for me, that whole story arc with Woman was interesting, but nothing extremely eventful.
No.
So if we're to wrap it all up with what we've spoken about, and
Well,
this
there's still
is,
Mon Mothma that we haven't talked
oh yeah,
really much
true,
about.
true, true.
She's trying to rally votes to kill the P.O.R.D. I'm going to look at my notes because I'm never able to remember the abbreviation. So it's Public Order Resentencing Directive. Uh, so she wants to remove it. It was in the aftermath of the Aldani heist that I mentioned earlier. So and she's struggling to find the votes she needs to kill it. And even the senator of Ghorman is reluctant to vote for that because he's afraid the emperor will have a grudge even more against him
Yeah,
because they're feeling the chokehold slowly tightening up, on Gorman, and they see that building being built. Supposedly, it's a offices and stuff like that, but they're not taking the bite. They know it's an
yeah,
armory,
yeah.
which leads to which leads us back to Gorman,
Well,
and
no, no,
they
no. Well, we have to mention before we move on off of Mothma. Because again, Mothma, I find didn't have as predominant of a role in this kind of story
oh,
arc.
true.
But we
Mhm.
had a
The
reveal of
Imperial
a.
Ball.
Well, no, I was going to mention the recast of
Oh, okay.
Bail Organa, which was a little bit of a surprise for me.
Mm-hmm.
I actually kind of like, as we're watching the preview, I'm like, and it's hard because when we watched the
The
screener,
screeners. Mm-hmm.
we there's a lot of stuff that wasn't out on the internet. So even when I went to like look at Andor cast and everything like that, and I'm like, well, where's Benjamin Pratt? I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, is he like a brother or a cousin of the? Is he part of the Royal Organa family? I'm like, what am I missing
Yeah.
here? And then I'm like, wait a minute, no, they just flat out recast Baylor. Like, because I heard Organa, and then I'm like, did she say Bail Organa? And then I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's it. They've recast them, and
Mm-hmm.
apparently due to scheduling conflicts. But I
Yeah.
mean, Jimmy Smits is not doing much these days, so I'm not sure
Well,
what's.
I read that it was because he reprised his role in Dexter.
Oh,
So
Jesus. Yeah, but what did they say? What did they say? 35 years, or what was the thing that they said? No, not 35 years, or 25 years of playing Bail Organa, and
yeah,
I guess Dexter must have paid a lot of money or something, and who
or
knows?
maybe it's just a bigger role
Yeah,
in Dexter. So
probably. But man, that's unfortunate. I mean, not that I have anything against Benjamin Pratt. I've always liked him as
well, he
far
does a
as
pretty decent job. I mean,
yeah,
I think
yeah.
in
The
the series.
transition is. I mean, it's not like a crazy main role. But they've recast Mothma. I think it would have been like, well, I mean, they already did, I guess, in a way. But like,
Mm-hmm.
had it been one of those main characters, but I could definitely live with that. And I've liked him as far as the first movie I saw with him, which was Blood In, Blood Out back in the day,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I mean, I have no problem with it. And then again, it didn't feel too forced and felt all right to me. So I was fine with it. So
Mm-hmm.
what can you do?
And yeah, and they meet at the Imperial Ball, and we have to talk about the microphone they need to remove
Yes, yes, yeah.
from Scaldon's
So I
art
mean,
collection.
again, it's hard to put this into words, but it was quite one of those kind of intense scenes where I think they find out that there
Yeah.
is some kind of leak or something that's going on, and they need to go and
Well,
remove that.
they find out that one of the pieces in Scaldon's collection is a fake,
Yeah,
and Scaldon is pissed off about it,
yeah,
and he wants to have the entire collection authenticated again. So
yeah. They have to
if
remove
they
that.
look at that table, they're gonna find out the microphone. So they have to remove it before it is shipped back for inspection. And since it's the Imperial Ball, all the big officers are there.
Krennic.
Young is there.
Yeah,
Hirsch is there. Who else? Lonnie? No, not Lonnie. Magret is there. And they end up in that showroom, and bam, we see Krennic is waiting there. And since Lonnie is one of Luton's spy in the ISB, Clea recruits him to
yeah,
help her out remove
puts
The
him in a tough
microphone.
spot.
Yeah.
But like, man, like it's just whenever Krennic's there, it's like it's funny because you never know. Like is he aware of what's going on? Is he just kind of playing along? Is he kind of like waiting for the perfect moment to strike? And it kind of reminds me of it's funny. I'm going back to this, but like the Inglorious Bastard,
Uh-huh.
when Hans or the main villain, I forget what his name was, but like how he
Yeah, I
was.
know what you mean. Yeah.
But whenever he was talking to someone, and you'd be like, is he just messing with this person the whole time, and he knows who they
Well,
actually are,
like
right?
the
Like,
opening scene of the movie, they know that they're hiding
yeah.
in the cellar
But there was also
below.
that scene when he's talking to the French girl in the restaurant, and he's having, was it a strudel or whatever or something like that, and he's talking to her, and she's like, is he aware that I'm that girl that he chased at the beginning of the movie, right? Type thing.
Yeah.
So like you never know if he's onto it or not, and that's the impression I
Shoshana.
get. Yeah, Shoshana. He was attendez la crème, like so. But that guy, Krennic reminds me of that kind of role as well, right? Like he's super smart and intuitive with what's going on, and anyway, anyone's watched that scene, just you feel that really tense moment. It's got like a spy kind of Mission Impossible feel to it at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but so if we go back now, I think we can try to find that connection where Vel is sent to take over especially now we have Cyril that's in the prime of his career now, finally being part of this
Having the time of
undercover,
his life.
yeah, kind of reporting play by play to the ISB of what's going on. So like it was fun to see him like rejoice, I guess, in that moment. But we during that mission, obviously being kind of all set up also in the end. Well, actually no, because like I think I mean obviously we see Cinta die, but it was like a total accident, which probably should have never happened in the first place.
It shouldn't have happened.
It said not to bring weapons, right? Or
that's it. They say do not bring weapons. Only Vel and Cinta were supposed to have weapons, and the whole thing goes as planned, as it was supposed to be, until I don't remember her name, but the blonde girl leaves her post and takes the old lady back to her place.
Yeah.
And it creates like a free spot over there, and Vel goes to cover for her. And then there's the altercation between the young kid from the Ghorman front with the older man who was at the meeting like a few days before that.
Yeah.
And there's a little altercation there.
Well, he
and,
notices he has a gun. He says something like, "It better be a toy" or whatever he says. And
yeah, and caught in a crossfire is Cinta. But one day after patching things up with Vel, it kind of sucked.
But do you think that like that was part of like is it something that Luthen might have got in a way to get Vel to go? That obviously he must know what's going on with Cinta and like to reunite them finally in order to maybe entice,
like throw a bone to Vel.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sure, perhaps.
I'm not sure. It just felt like more of a coin. I mean, they had obviously worked together before, but I don't know.
I think they haven't seen each other since the Ferrex riot at the end of season 1.
So I'm wondering, or maybe they just somehow in the show trying to wrote them together just so that like she's there when she passes and and take it from there. But so that was one of the first, I guess, I don't want to say major, but one
first
of the
big loss.
deaths.
Yeah. She was one of the OGs from the Aldani Heights. So now we have only Cass and Vel from that heist.
I don't think we saw Cassian much. I think after the his confrontation with Luthen, right? Like I think that was.
Now it wraps things up right up until the very end, where Bix finally gets
Her
her
revenge.
vengeance. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I
So
wasn't even sure if that was a dream or not
at
until
one point, yeah, I
yeah,
was wondering the same thing because during the episodes, we hear that the Emperor is very impressed with Dr. Gorst's torture methods,
yeah.
and he wants to create a program out of it. And well, obviously, Luton is not too thrilled about that. So I think he's the one who slipped the intel to
Well,
Cass and
s-
Bix, knowing that they would be more than happy
well, that's it. To give
to
her the
take care.
closure, probably remove that from and Cashin said
And
to
it
fix it.
follows the argument he has with Cass,
Yeah,
Luton
so he
and
said to
Cass. So.
fix it. Maybe he slipped her the information, and there we go.
Hmm.
That's how she starts her healing. But it was that's how this story arc, the third episode, finished.
Yeah.
I mean, unless we're forgetting anything, we can come back to real quick. But like for me, I thought it
No.
was another. Sorry, you wanted to add
When
something?
when he got it in his office, Gorst with his little cake or I don't know what, intergalactic cupcake. Uh,
Oh
and then
yeah,
the lights turns on, and I was like, "Holy crap, she's there!"
yeah.
So
But
it was so good, and when she ties him up on the chair, in the whole process, she gives him the same speech
yeah,
he gave her on
yeah,
Ferric. So it was like, yeah, now
yeah,
it's your
that was
turn,
good.
buddy. And then she puts the headset on, she leaves, and we see that there was like an observation room, like a same type of like an integration chamber. There's like a window,
Yeah.
and behind the window there's some chairs for people to witness the
And there's
torture.
no, I mean, who knows how long he was left in that, right? Like she just
Well,
bails
not
and
much because we see them come out of the building, and a few seconds later they push on the button and the building explodes. So
oh, okay, yeah,
maybe like
yeah. Oh,
15 minutes tops.
okay, okay.
So because they didn't want his research to be salvageable
Right, right,
for
right.
the emperors to create
When
the
I did my
program afterwards.
rewatch, I think I saw her walking on. I'm like, oh yeah. Then like it was the credits. I didn't watch all the way to the, but yeah, you're right. So
Hmm.
yeah, so we did see Cassian at the end of that one. So
Yeah.
so for me, like if I kind of like resume my, and maybe if I'm gonna go ahead and give it a score, this story arc was another setup into what we know is coming,
Hmm.
but like again, it's and I mentioned this in the
And
last time we
we're
reviewed.
mid season, right? So
Yeah, and it's like the pieces are coming together. Slow cooking is a word I've used. Think Chris Nolan and all that. But next if
hang
you're
on for
waiting,
next week.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if you've been waiting for something that's a little bit more packed with what did you want to say, kind of, because it's not necessarily much eye candy in any of this Andor, right? It's not about flashy
Hmm.
lightsabers and everything like that, but it's about like the kind of the oh crap moments and all this stuff. This you got your next stretch is coming.
You're in for a treat. Yeah.
And I remember when I had watched it, and I think I mentioned this as well. Like I had gotten up to, I had seen the first scene. I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be crazy. And then I think I sent you a message, even like I'm like, man, the first 6 episodes are, you know, I
On the back burner, maybe
yeah,
a bit. Yeah.
I'm waiting for something to end, and
Yeah.
so
It's a slow cooker. Mm.
rest assured, it's anyone who's
Popcorn is about to pop next week.
yeah, exactly. So next week, without getting into any specifics, of course, of what episode or whatnot, but next week it's picking up.
Hmm.
It's going to be the next week and the year after is going to be the last 2 years leading up to Rogue One, and you're going to see it's going to fill in, the blanks you've probably been waiting for, like and so. But again, if I were to rate this one, what was I gave it a 7 or something, 7.5. I think it was like
Hmm.
last week. I'm still sticking with that.
Around that.
Yeah, because again, it's just as a whole ensemble, like it's the series for me is a 9.5, more around
Hmm.
those. Well, probably 9, because I enjoyed overall. I enjoyed Cassian season. I mean Andor season 1 a little bit more.
Yeah.
But there's so much interesting stuff coming up that, I mean, we've seen some of it obviously in the trailers. Sometime in the next 2 weeks, we're gonna see K2 and other things that we've seen during the
Hmm.
like it's that all that stuff is coming. So I mean,
We're getting there. Yeah.
yeah. So all the stuff you've seen in the trailers that you're waiting for, well, there's
You're about to be rewarded.
exactly it's coming. You got 2 weeks, it's coming. So
Yeah.
you've been patient, and don't worry, it'll be there. So
Yeah. It's like for me, Andor is like a spy thriller.
yeah,
You said the pieces. You're getting ready. The whole season 2 thing is all about Ghorman and how the Empire is like ruthless,
yeah.
and we're gonna see it next week. So, and then we've seen some stuff, and I don't want to say too much stuff either. So,
Yeah, I mean,
uh,
you've seen
but you're in
if
for a
you go
treat. I
back,
mean,
if you watch the 6 episodes and now go back and watch the trailer, um, you can fill in some of the blanks as to what's coming up, based on the sceneries and
on what we
whatnot.
saw after,
Yeah,
yeah.
so like
I
you'll
mean,
notice some of the settings is what's going on is so like without obviously saying anything, you can do that and fill in the blanks for yourself. But we'll talk next week and about what's
yeah,
been going
because
on. And
if you've seen Rebels, if you've seen Rogue One, and if you've seen the original trilogy, you already know some stuff about Mon Mothma and
yeah,
the Rebel Alliance in general. So
well, it's simple. I mean,
we're
you
gonna
look
connect the dots in
exactly
the upcoming
look at
weeks.
Rogue
Yeah.
One and look at the end of your 6th episode. The dots are getting connected, right? Like so,
Hmm.
you're filling in that gap. So, so what did you think of these 3 episodes
Yeah, I
or
last week
arc?
it was 8.5 if my memory serves me right. So I'm going to go 8 this week
Yeah,
because of the lack of events.
yeah. It's not obviously
Uh,
it's not an eye candy. It's not something like, oh, I can't wait to watch these 3 episodes. I kind of skimmed through them as a reminder to prepare for this.
mhm.
But like
I really enjoyed the Imperial Ball and all that lavish stuff, and the costumes and
well, you have a few conversations that's got not to the degree, but of the Tarantino type. I don't know if
yeah.
you know what I'm saying, but the
Hmm.
like kind of like tense conversation. Like you could watch a Tarantino movie and it could be all dialogue throughout the whole thing, and it's just
Yeah.
which is basically what was it?
Reservoir Dogs or
Not Reservoir Dogs, but the one with
the opening and the Pulp Fiction at the beginning, that
yeah, there's
chit
that.
chat at the beginning.
But I'm talking more like the movie that he made where Samuel Jackson is in the snow, and they go to the cabin.
Oh yeah,
The Hateful Eight.
the Hateful Eight. Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
that movie is like 98% dialogue, right? And then you
Hmm.
just have that last scene where like the shooting's going off and all that, and then that. But most of it is that kind of stuff, and I
Yeah.
find that like if you can approach this series so far in that way, obviously not to the wit and clever that Tarantino could maybe do it, but you mix in some of that, some of your spy, like you said, set up Nolan. It's a hybrid version of that. I think
Hmm.
if that's the expectation you have of the first 6 episodes, or
Yeah.
in as a let's say if you take a step back and watch eventually all 12 episodes, you'll appreciate a lot more because, like I said, we've seen the whole thing, so we know where the setup is going, and their build up is about to be done. So
Hmm.
we're getting into the meat and potatoes, I guess, and not that we're not enthusiastic about what we talk about, but next couple weeks we'll be a little bit more enthused about some of
Hmm.
the events that we saw, and I think there'll be a lot more Easter eggs for you to mention.
Speaking of which,
Yeah, it's perfect
I managed to
segue.
find
I
some.
knew
Yeah.
it.
So, uh, not as much as last week, but there's a few. I already mentioned the car, same the planet as the Force Awakens, the dome near the plaza on Gorman reminds me a lot of the dome we see in Rebels on Lothal. The type of dome shape there is. So
Again, that's a reminder of you being in full
Yeah.
Rebels mode right now. That
And you know what's funny is that I'm in season 2, and season 2 corresponds to this week in Andor. So
oh, really nice.
yeah, that's pretty special. So that what else? What else? Oh, when episode which was 5 opens, we hear like a radio chit chat, like when Clea is listening on the comms, and we hear planets like Rylat 456 and Corellia 222 and stuff like that, like a radio station. And
Hmm.
Rylat is the home planet of the Twi'leks.
Hmm.
So thinking of Era Syndulla, her father Cham Syndulla. So that's pretty interesting.
Jabba
And
the Hutt's
Corellia,
slave.
yeah, for sure. And Corellia is also mentioned, known for its imperial shipyards and for also being the home planet of our dear friend Han Solo and Kira in the same way. So
Yeah.
pretty interesting. And then we hear the microphone from Scalden's art gallery. So this is how they all introduce that they are spying, on in his art gallery to get intel from him. So, and yeah, so pretty. The at the gallery, at Luton's gallery, we see Queen Amidala's crown from the Phantom
Oh,
Menace.
is it okay? I said
Yeah,
I didn't want to mention any of these kind of things that we see because I didn't remember which episode, but I figured you'd be able to bring those up when needed.
yeah, we see a Wookiee helmet from the type of helmet we saw in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
When they fight off the Separatists, and then we see a Sith chalice standing on the podium. Same chalice that was sold at Galaxy's Edge Parks when they opened. So I don't own it. I decided not to purchase it for financial reasons, but yeah, it was sold at, and we see it also in Revenge of the Sith when the Emperor is tempting Anakin to go to the dark side. When Anakin is holding his lightsaber pointing at Palpatine in his office, we see that chalice as well in his office. So,
Well, I mean, plenty of more to come, though. I mean, I know that there's quite a few things that we know are gonna pop up. Not gonna say
maybe I
anything
missed
more.
something like a reference or
Yeah, like
a
last
drink
week
or...
when we wanted to, we completely forgot about the very last thing that you see. I think in the that's all
don't
right.
tell me about it. Yeah, we do, guys. It was Yavin 4 in case somebody said, well, bunch of idiots. They didn't even mention Yavin 4. Yeah, we do. We just forgot to mention it. So, yeah, it was pretty obvious that there was the Masasi temple over there. So, they were on Yavin 4.
Overall, I think I'm still sticking with my score. You came down a bit. I mean, for me, it's like we're not doing 0.2s or 0.3s, but yeah, I mean, for me, it's a 7. You're going down to an 8. We're so aligned with where we're going, but for me to still say that despite the fact that I gave it a 7, 7.5 last week, and then with the same kind of score this week, it's still going to finish for me as an easy 9. So that means again the best is yet to come. Yeah. So. Stay tuned next week, depending on our... Well, I don't have any to worry about hockey schedules anymore because the Montreal Canadiens had been knocked out.
See, I knew your team would go before mine, but mine could go off tonight, so...
We barely scraped our way in.
I'm going to be too cocky.
Yeah. So, it's 2-2 with your...
It's 3-2 for Dallas, so... It's a win or go back home tonight.
So next week we might have the review up much earlier, but we'll base it. We'll base it around Dominic's hockey schedule, which he's actually about to log off now, and
hopefully there's gonna.
Hopefully you get 2 more games to watch.
Yeah. So it's tonight on Thursday and Saturday. So game 7. Hopefully we'll survive tonight first, and we're at home, so maybe the odds are in our favor. I don't know. I'll tell you all about it, guys, next week for sure. Perhaps I'll have my tissue box next to my microphone. Still crying my loss, or
It's all
tears of
right.
joy.
It's all
Hopefully,
right. We got plenty of good stuff to talk about next week. So,
yeah,
on that note, you want to talk us out?
yes, for sure. So first, before we leave, I want to wish you guys a happy May the 4th. Enjoy your Star Wars weekend. Do something you like about
Splurge,
Star Wars.
spend.
Splurge, yeah. If you're near the Galaxy's Edge parks, enjoy yourselves.
Show Disney that the franchise is healthy and people want content.
Is alive and well,
Yeah.
yeah. And show your passion. I mean, if it's wearing a t-shirt, that's cool. If it's buying merch, that's cool as well. If you're trooping for the 501st, great. I mean, I'm doing my first troop in an hospital on Monday.
Oh, nice.
So it's going to be pretty emotional as well. So
yeah, that one was those were my first troop was in the Shriners, and those are special. So
yeah, so
puts many
Monday
things into context. So
Monday morning, I'll brave the bridges for Montreal and everything. So
good luck.
hopefully I won't. Yeah, hopefully I won't be too delayed that much. I think I'm gonna have to wake up at 4:30 or 5 a.m. just to be sure to get there in time. It's because I got to put my costume before I leave. I cannot put my costume in the changing room.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
Yeah,
more complex than you guys might think.
Not
Maybe we should do a show one day about special stuff I need to do about with my disability. And adaptations and stuff like that.
I mean, depending how open you are, do a Q&A for people who might be curious. And I recently started working in the industry of wheelchairs and stuff like that. So it's been pretty interesting. But you'll notice that just to circle back to the 501st here is that whether you have a condition or not, the changing rooms are not always ideal. Sometimes you're given some little back room or whatever, and you just want to be able to have a little bit of privacy, but it's not always ideal to be able to change. So I highly suggest, and I would change too, but you can't drive as a stormtrooper, right? But
and my costume is all stuff good.
So you're all set. But it's not. It's again, once you're out there and doing what you're doing, and visiting the kids, and that all goes away.
Because that's why I enlisted. In the 501st. So having been on the other side of the river, I can tell that we're gonna make some kids very happy for Revenge of the 5th.
That's good.
So good timing. So
okay,
guys,
next week
we've taken out of your time, folks. I hope you can feel our passion for the Star Wars universe when we do those podcasts. We had a good time. We hope you did as well. So I guess we'll see you next week. And until then.